Consent, gentlemen, to being recorded. How are we all today?
I consent to being recorded. Awesome. Thank you very much.
I too consent to being recorded. Thank you.
Kieran, that'll be a first for you.
Yeah, can we just get a quick Mullet update, please? Andrew Mullet's for mental health. Give us the blurb.
So I've got to do a Art's going to do one. So
Art's going to get a mullet.
Fuck. My undercover barber, big shout out to undercover barber man, you know who you are, has injured his hand, so I can't get a haircut. Art's going to have a crack, so it's going to be hectic.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oscar, the whole fam, let them all have a go. Let them have a side each.
I just feel out of place because you guys have got caps on today. I can't find a cap next to me.
I don't know what to do about my head.
We felt in awe. We couldn't live up to your mullet, and so
the goal's been set. The bar's been raised. Nuggets got the dragon at the moment, and that is epic.
I don't know what I can't do anything. I've got a little bit of hair on the back of my head, and if I let that grow out, I'm pretty sure my wife's given up. Like the amount of shit I'm going to get from my daughter, that's basically a deal breaker. So I've just got to. She asked me today, she said, "Are you going to shave your face today?" I'm like, oh,
terrible.
Yeah,
I can't do 2 days without the girls from my house going off at me. But anyway,
yeah, the girls in my house love me, so they tolerate it a bit more. Whereas they tolerate you and love it when you shave it. And then, Kieran, there's no girls in your house ever. So.
I do live by myself with my 10-year-old dog. So thank you. Yes, I'm feeling really, yeah.
So, how
you straight to the fucking feels today, sorry, asshole.
Sorry?
Straight to the feels today.
Hey, I haven't made any other stuff about Kieran. I've been very good. We're on episode 5. I've made none of my jokes that one would expect. So I'm proud of me.
Proud of you too, man.
Are you guys doing PT shed and stuff outside?
Nah, man. I've got but look, I'll be honest with you, today I've got a bit more spring in the step. We're getting ready to open, whether it actually happens or not, but we've been locked down for nearly 13 weeks. But they're saying the projected 70% double vax open Freedom Day shit is supposed to be October 18, but there's whispers that it could get earlier. So we're having all our staff meetings and stuff to get ready to crack on with it. So yeehaw. Went to Brookvale for the first time in I don't even know how long because I've not been allowed to go there. So,
congratulations!
Happy days.
Yes, I think we're. I think the gyms for us is looking a lot like November 4th. And today we've hit a wonderful milestone. I'm going to get someone to double check the maths, but I think since March 20th, we've now had our gyms closed for 300 days.
Oh,
awesome.
So definitely more closed than open. And it was funny because yesterday apparently there was an earthquake in Melbourne, which again, like the last earthquake, I didn't even notice. And my gym building's quite an old building, so I came here I only come here to speak to you guys, but I came here today and I'm like, God, I hope those cracks in the walls haven't gotten significantly larger. It's still in one piece, so hopefully it stays together for another, I don't know, 7 weeks before we get to have a gym again. But we've been permitted to do outdoor PT, so it was my 3rd day today. I'm like, holy moly, when you haven't held pads for like 7 or 8 weeks and you do 3 hours in a row, it's like, oh yeah, there's the shoulders.
Yeah, there they are.
Man, we got nothing.
Yeah, look at you go. But on a positive note, you're getting close to 1,000, so I think you hit 750.
Congratulations. Big milestone.
Yeah, good job.
Great.
Big milestone.
Awesomely. And I think they're saying September 23, which is tomorrow, we're supposed to get to a certain milestone. And then October, another one. But again, once again, the gyms are the dirtiest places. I thought the Westgate Bridge here was the dirtiest place to be on at the moment, but apparently it's the gym.
And how are you going, Kieran? This is your first dose of being locked down longer than a week.
I think our original lockdown, I think, was 6. When it was March last year, I think it was about 6 weeks. I think we're at week 7 now. I think we're at week 7, or I'm at week 7 because I had the week in Queensland.
Oh, yeah.
We had the fights when War on the Shore was cancelled.
It's been 7 weeks since PZ's show.
Yeah. Wild, hey?
It's a blur to me, man. It seems like fucking 3.
Crazy, isn't it? So I think that was about 7 weeks ago, because that was of the end of the month. Yeah, that was the end of the month. So it would have been 7 weeks. So we can't do anything. We can't do outdoor PTs. We can't do, I've matched fights anyway. So we just figured however we can do that. We figured it out, but, and hope that Queensland lets us in come October 30, but we'll see what happens.
We've got, I think, they haven't really said what's going to happen with numbers and crowds, but I've got a show December 4th, hopefully. So that's 11 weeks away or 10 weeks away. And I'm like, God, I better start matching that because, time starts flying, but it's the same story again. I don't see, I think we'll have maybe Kiwi and Thai fighters here before we get WA guys. So I don't know, I'm just going to do what I did last time and try to match everything on the East Coast, and hopefully Queensland and New South Wales and ACT open up a bit.
We've been told that from the Monday after 70%, we can have events of up to 500 people. So,
beautiful.
Yeah.
At 70% double or double?
Double, yeah. We're at 52 now. 52.
Wow.
Yeah.
We are projected to have over 95% double for the ACT.
Our northern beaches.
That's like 7 people though, Kieran.
It's half of my gym. It's half of my gym, man.
But our northern beaches thing, those blokes up there that got hit real hard, on New Year's time, but they're already at like 93% or something today. First dose. It's pretty fucking crazy, man. Anyway, sick of that shit.
And then your boy Maxi Kieran threw up the bit of the podcast we were hoping nobody actually listened to on his story the other day. And it's so funny. Once he posts the responses, you can kind of figure who some of those people are without him sticking the names on.
You can tell what state as well.
No.
To set the record straight, all my stuff last week was predictions. It's not my personal opinion, but I think the way that it come across was pretty interesting. It's like, should they be forced to be vaccinated or stuff? But to be quite honest, man, by the way it's looking here, pretty much everyone will be anyway. So, go figure. A test is fine, man. Like, in my opinion, if you pass it, you're fine. But
rapid antigen test. Bang. See you later.
It's just whether it becomes a choice. Like for us, it's not like, it's the same with the gym and stuff. Like I'm hearing like rumors of a couple of members and things coming back. I'm like, hey, if there's no rule in place that everyone can train, everyone can train. And if there's a rule in place, though, because, if there's no rule in place and then you block people, then you're open to discrimination and stuff. But if there's a rule, so it's like, as a business owner, like it's been 330, by the time we open, it'll be 350 days or something since we've been open. And if a client wants to threaten me with legal action, great. I'll get my Soviet era lawyers with their dodgy van to come and make some discussions with them.
Well, the next question should be on, I message Max about it as well. Next question would be, would you get a vax to go fight in one? Because you got it.
Because you got it. Exactly. And I think that's what maybe why they've had a few less of the bigger names that have chosen, maybe like in the UK, the likes of Liam Harrison. And I know that I don't know personally, but I know that he was outspoken against taking the vax. I know that they had another girl, I can't remember her name, she's Swedish or something. I think the one that Anne Lynn, I think she didn't want to get it. There's a few I know that hadn't. So I think, and that's not a one rule either. It's a Singapore government rule, right?
Yeah.
It's not a one championship rule. And so it's like, it is what it is, guys. If you don't want it, well then, fine. Sweet. But you know, you can use your Victorian issued shotgun and rubber pellets to force them out of the gym, maybe.
So good.
The man, I don't know what's happening with my microphone.
Yeah, we're losing you.
Yeah, you're losing me. Great.
I know we got you now.
Hey,
The good old Tom Gathercole can cut it up and make it sound like you never left.
How good is that 5th round video? I think I mentioned that Tom Gathercole put up the other day with Hammer and River. How good was that?
Awesome. Loved it.
Very good. Cornering was good.
Amazing.
And it shows what River. I love listening to that shit, man. And I just because you just miss out on it and you hear bits and bobs of it when you're in the crowd or ringside. But the way that Tom captured it and you could see the passion in Hammer's eyes, and you could just man, you get goosebumps. Fuck, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. It was awesome. So
well, it's like the Teddy Atlas ones with Bradley, where it's like, we're firefighters. I mean, I think Teddy Atlas really plays it up to the camera. And I love Teddy Atlas.
Cool video.
He plays it up, but it was that moment. And I think Tom's going to have a few other rounds. He's going to start putting up like rounds where, because he never sits there and single camera shoots around like the way he did for that. But he's done it for like a couple of random rounds here and there. And he sent me one data yesterday as well. And it's like, the normal broadcast footage is so cool, but that little camera angle that he gets, and because he's filming it for highlights and the quality and the sounds, it's like, oh, it's amazing.
So we did it with when our videographer at the gym came with us to One and to Japan as well, and he helps me in the corner and films at the same time. Some of the content he gets is so cool. Like the corner is just such like some of the conversations you capture, and man, it's so cool.
actually, you just reminded me, man. Shout out to Anthony Wharton down in Orange. He used to train Charlie back in the day before he moved on, and he was one of the first I'd ever seen. Every fight show, man, he used to have it. Yeah,
GoPro.
I want to see it.
On the head.
Where did it go?
Classic.
Anthony, if you're watching, man, I remember that shit. I want to see some of that shit because it was no one was doing that then. It was fucking awesome.
That was cool. That, and they always took the selfie. Him and Charlie always took the selfie before they,
But remember, Kieran, you're a bit more well versed in anything other than the one thing like Andrew is. You remember in Pride FC, the referees used to wear that chest cam,
the body cam.
And then when someone would be getting sucker kicked in the face by Wanderlei and they'd be running, they'd go, "Oh, stop us!" I was like, "Whoa!" Like Blair Witch Project. You want a real horror? Watch Wanderlei stomp Yuki Kondo on the head holding onto the rope.
The body cameras and the mics, the body cameras and the ref mics for the audience to hear, love those.
Was there any fights last weekend that we know of?
High fights.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Oh, yes.
The Zoom Lumpini. I'm going to Zoom us at the next. Hopefully, I don't have to do another lockdown show. But if I do, I'm putting a Zoom of us three in the background.
Man, fuck, that was terrible. Everything.
So this was the first
last
show
week,
they did? Was this the
anything,
first?
whatever.
Is this the first show they did on the rooftop or the car park?
They done. I think maybe one a few days earlier as well. One or two a few days earlier. I think that was the second or the third one. It wasn't the first one back, no. But I think it might have been the first one back for the Council of the Gods on the wall on the green. I don't know what that was.
What was that?
The fights was terrible. Fuck.
That was a Thailand special. I don't know what that was.
Were they from the Go Live group or whatever?
No
idea.
Anyway,
so
for anyone who didn't see, while the fights were on, it was a no crowd event, and for some reason in the background was superimposed a Zoom meeting of some sort that literally some of the people look like your local council meeting, just sitting there. And I don't know what was going on.
So maybe a live. crowd. It's supposed to be like the live crowd thing. I don't know, man. But even the fights, the week earlier on, I watched a little bit of that, and me and Chalk and Singh were having a bit of a giggle at the quality of the ties. There was some stuff going on, and then I flicked over on Saturday, and it's supposed to be a momentous occasion, man. But every time I turned it over, I fucking turned it back off, and I thought, no, I'll come back in, turn it on, and then even I'm sorry, girls, but that was pretty shit too. I don't know. I didn't see the whole thing again. I didn't even watch that. So, whoops.
So there was a women's WBC Lumpini title fight. Was that what it was?
Yeah, WBC world title. Yeah.
And then which one was the fight that had the big
Wait.
controversy on the scores? Was that that wasn't at Lumpini? Was that Umnoy?
Yeah, the makeshift stadium they've got. That is blowing up. So, puncher versus kicker. Fuck, man. So I haven't watched the fight, but Thai social media and circles are like going off over it. And basically, so, I mean, you've got, I'm going to bring up a little bit the scores. So, sorry, man. I'll grab up the scores now. Where are we?
One judge draw, two the other way.
Yeah, so you had Yotlek Pet Tidet Galkao against Pet Mahachon Jitmung Nonjim at 63.1 kegs for the stadium belt. A lot of people have seen Yotlek Pet fight, and big puncher. Anyway, basically from reading what the rundown of the fight was, round one was pretty basic, easy draw. Round two, Yotlek Pet dropped him for a count, I believe. 3 and 4, Pet Mahachon came back and won 3 and 4. Round 5, Yotlek Pet punched holes in him and almost stopped him. This is what I read. And then the scorecards were read out, and basically what they're saying is that, so Judge 1 was 47-48 for Pet Mahachon. Judge 2 was 48-48, and then Judge 3 was 47-48 Pet Mahachon as well. But I mean, they even had a lot. They had to follow the trainer from Yotlek Pet around the stadium because he was spewing. I watched the live thing, and he hunted down the head official and was like, "How can you get a 47? Like it mathematically doesn't work out, right?" So like almost immediately they give a 10-8 over there for a count. So 47, he technically had to have lost 3 rounds. They admitted that the first one was a draw, should have been a 10-8. The 5th round, they're saying he should have won. I need to watch it. But how do you get a 47 out of that? And, 49, 48, like whatever, either way it goes. So then what's come out yesterday, I had to get a bit of help with the translation on that one. What they're saying is they actually want to take him to court and sue them for corruption or some shit. Oh. So, yeah, that's really interesting because that's just the big part, is that 47 score, because they're like, how can you pull that out? I don't know. He got a point. Might try and find some footage.
There's two things. When you start to say Thai names with your accent, it's like me at an Iranian restaurant where I'm speaking perfect English, and then when I order the food, it's like I'm fresh off the boat. So I appreciate the tad bit of authenticity you bring, Kieran. I'm not downplaying the tattoo. I'm not playing the tattoo on your hand, Kieran. I acknowledge you. Number 2, it's not to keep bringing it back to topics we've covered, but it's when there's a thing that's really out there that causes the problems, like with the main event of the last Roots. It's like when you get a score that just doesn't make sense, like you can go one round here and there, but when there's a score where you go, how do you mathematically come up with that? That's when it causes, and that's where they get a ground for going, well, this is corrupt. Like if you score a round, you've said this is a draw, so that's that, and then you've got a drop, 10-8, then how are you going with that?
Yeah, 48-48, similar type of thing. Where did you get the 48-48 from? I don't know. But yeah, like generally over there without the counts, they're super close fights. I'll do it 49, 48, 49, like that type of thing. They could just rattle it off the top of their head, what it's going to be. But that 47 thing was like, wow, how did he get a 47? So anyway, it's exciting time, man. Like you watched a little bit of fights last night on Lumpini as well. I didn't get to watch the main, but quality again is pretty ordinary. You can just see they're all coming back in the big names. Did you watch the main, Kieran?
Main was good. Mullet and Don Sum Hong. That was good. I enjoy it. It wasn't, and it didn't seem like a traditional Lumpini fight. Like it felt like they were trying to push it a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Take a few more risks and just play the game a little bit less earlier in the round. Like it just seemed, man, it's good fight.
The match fitness thing's a big issue. Like I did, like with footy, you get your match fitness, a bit nervous the first couple of rounds, and then off you go. So imagine some of these guys are used to fighting every, 4 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, whatever it is, not having a fight for so long, as well as not even training, and then having to quickly get back together again, cut a little bit of weight, and because it's not like they're, it's not like exercising for fun's a pastime in Thailand. Sorry, Thai friends, but yeah.
All right, my house. Yeah. So coming up this weekend, tomorrow night's the One Championship card. There's a fair bit of actual Muay Thai fights in it, and I'm also going to talk about one or two of the MMA fights, Andrew. So if you need to go get a cup of tea or a beer, because I know it's past your beer time.
I'm off.
Yeah, I noticed you've got the water bottle again.
Hey,
I know.
see that?
No beers, no.
See what I'm doing there? See it, man. Gyms are opening up again, man. It's like the spring in the step I'm talking about.
Shredding the stereo.
For real.
Okay, man. All right, bro, let's go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Revolution. One revolution.
Who's got the card?
Captain. Are we going to do Pedanong and Zhang?
So that's a kickboxing fight.
Kickboxing. Sorry, we'll skip that one to the Muay Thai fight.
No, let's go. Pedanong's interesting. That's his second fight for one, isn't it? And that's his second kickboxing fight.
Muay Thai Hour. Don't know.
Maybe.
Well, Pedanong's last fight lasted 2 seconds, didn't it? He got hit once and he went down. Did he fight Capitan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I won some
the right hand, yeah. The 3 second KO, yeah.
Against Capitan, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes. Against Capitan.
About the performance Muay Thai, Petan versus Taiki Naito. NATO. North American Trade Organization. That's going to trigger a few people. All right, Kieran, go.
I've got a good Taiki story. I want to tell you, this is a good story. So we're out backstage. So Taki Naito was fighting Michael Savas, and this was when Josh was due to fight Andy Howson. We were in the same backstage area as Taki Naito. His coach, quite a bit smaller than him. Taki Naito looks like an absolute unit, right? And has a gas tank like I've never seen on anyone. I shit you not, he warmed up for an hour and a half, hitting pads. Out the back was just non-stop, and hard. This was not steady punching the occasional kick. This was more than I see fighters doing fight prep on pads. It was unreal. And he had this thing, his trainer, a bit shorter than him, really sharp, taking those really sharp, classic Japanese kickboxing style. And he would catch the 1-2. His trainer would catch 1-2 and go bam bam and go, ay, da, 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 which is like slang for ow. Like itai in Japanese is ouch. When you take the eye off, it's just like saying ow. You go bam, ay, da, 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 da. And then he'd move around and he'd go, da, ba, ba, ay, da, 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 da. I shit minutes and minutes. He would just keep going, ba, ba, ay, da, 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 and he'd shake his hand out every time.
It's kind of Jackie Chan. It's like a Jackie Chan movie where you hit people like go, ah!
Josh and I are sitting there like just watching. He was to fight after Josh, and Josh and I were just sitting around, and this and this trainer, it was the same thing. I shit you not. You got lost in it. Like I don't know how long I stood there watching them. Just,
how's he going to go, you reckon?
And it was incredible. I think, well, Haggerty knocked him out in the last one. So Haggerty knocked Takinato out in the last fight. And he beat Savas, I think, though, in that fight. So, yeah, I'm not sure, but I just like I'm a fan of his trainer. Whatever.
Is the Savas fight the one where Savas broke his arm? No.
I think his arm was already broken by then. Yeah.
All right, then we'll come back to fight number 7, which is quite important. Bout number co-main event, Capitan and versus Mehdi Zatud. That's a kickboxing fight.
Yeah, Mehdi's pretty good too, right?
Mehdi's great, but I thought Mehdi was fighting a little bit lighter, but maybe I was wrong. Because he fought one of the 2 French boys. What are their names? The brothers?
Bornwenheim.
The Pinto boy, Leo.
Yeah, he beat one of the Pinto boys last time. So he's fighting Capitan. And wow, is that all the Muay Thai fights in that? It's just one Thai boxing. The rest is kickboxing.
I think so. But shout out to Australian Martin Nguyen, who's having his first fight back for a while, who I think we have to more Aussies need to give Martin Nguyen props. He's probably one of the most successful Australian MMA exports. The guy who held the one championship MMA title for I think he might have won and defended it 3 or 4 times. Like this guy's yeah, man. He's very well known in Vietnam as well. He lives in America at the moment, but he's Aussie. You hear him speak, he's ochre as anything. He's from Victoria. He's from Melbourne. But man, he is like one of our best, in my opinion, one of Australia's best MMA exports. The guy needs way more hype and love around him. I think.
He was from that is it KMA or whatever, the Hapkido team in New South Wales. Farid Zalewski, is that their name? I think he was fighting out of that gym originally.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh no, sorry, he was from Sydney originally.
Sydney, yeah.
And he won, and you remember, I don't think it's been on for a while, but Brace. Do we remember Brace?
Right, yeah.
MMA tournament. I mean, he signed to one in 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he had 6 finishes. I'm just reading, this is just from his bio because I didn't know it too well, but he beat that Edward Folayang, who was quite a big poster boy of one back in the day, the Filipino MMA guy. He beat Edward Folayang when he was in his prime as well. Like I think it's quite sad that we have such a famous, well-known MMA export that doesn't really get much props, maybe because it's not the UFC or whatever. But
it's the one thing, I guess.
Yeah, but you got a guy, man. He's achieved more than guys like Volkanovski has, but no one knows him. So shout out to Martin Nguyen. I think that's not that he's watching the Muaythai Hour.
Look it over to him, man.
Someone people go give him a follow.
But that's the thing. I think at the moment though, it's like having a Bellator MMA title, Kieran, where it's unless you're the UFC champion, you're the UFC, whether you like it or not, does have that. I don't think any MMA fighter in the world would consider themselves the best in the world unless they had the UFC one. Now things will change, and I know one's got a huge audience in Asia, but overall, worldwide, no one's going to say, I consider you're the best featherweight in the world when there's other featherweights in the UFC, like Bellator and all those guys. And they've got that new organization that they've announced, WFL, that's they're trying to raise up against the UFC, but I don't think anyone's ever going to catch up with it. A couple of other fights for Andrew. I know he's interested. Marcus Buchecha Almeida, one of the greatest jiu-jitsu fighters ever, fighting Anderson Silva, not that Anderson Silva. And the one that I'm super looking forward to is Amir Aliakbari, multiple-time world and I think Olympic gold medalist in wrestling from Iran, who might have had a couple of his medals taken off him for accidentally eating Mexican horse meat. He's fighting a guy, Malakan.
That happens.
That fight, there's been so much shit talking to those two guys. So yeah, look forward to that one.
There are some good shows in Thailand this weekend too coming up. We've got on Saturday another show at Lumpini, which, as we have to do, give a shout out to Fairtex, because you've got Tanan Chai from Fairtex, who is the main event of the show on Saturday, and then and then there's also another at that stadium in Chonburi as well. There's Superlek Jitmonon. He's fighting for this Siamomnoi Super Bantamweight title as well. And then on Sunday, we have the return of Channel 7.
Yeah.
Which, of course, has Kulabdam and Sexan in that as the main event, and the Tiger Cement tournament, which is one of my favorites.
So I'm curious to see what happens with the Tiger Cement tournament, man. Like, that's one of my favorites.
Faves, man. For those, if you're watching the Muay Thai Hour and you don't know the Tiger Cement tournament, get around it. That's always,
There's a really good write-up on that tournament. Website unknown, Siam Fight. Is it? Sorry?
Siam Fight News.
Siam Fight News. The French one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I love his I can't believe I don't know his name. Serge Trufu. His website's got the sickest breakdowns in English and in French for those French speakers who join in, because we're the #1 podcast in the world.
Oui.
Soraya, hello, if you're watching.
Oh, bonjour. And
and Primus and Macron, I'm sorry, none of us actually like Morrison in Australia, so sorry,
shout out to Macron if he's watching. That's the submarine deal wasn't our choice. Sorry, go on, Andy.
Who's Macron?
It's like these little biscuits, Andy.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I love them too. They're mad. The kids do too.
All right. That's too much knowledge in that joke. That's going to go over a few people's heads. That was a high tier joke. That was a high level joke, man.
That's terrible.
Should we just call it quits now, man?
All right, everyone.
Down the level, man.
How do we think Sexan's going to go? When was the last time he actually had a dominant win anywhere?
Man.
Yeah, and then who else is coming back again? Parkhorn's fighting again soon, isn't he?
Really? I love Parkhorn. He was one of my guys that I really wanted on Rebellion, but 5 years ago.
And I think, everyone's favorite social media Thai superstar, Wan Chalong, I think he'll be done soon. But if anyone doesn't follow him on any social media platform, get around it. The guy's completely lost.
Wan Chalong. WANCH. Oh man. Everything from cross-dressing cooking segments to how to bash him. Oh, yeah. And yeah, just generally impressive. And also, does anyone ever remember how he got into serious trouble for upsetting a promoter in Thailand and got forced to fucking do a public apology? Yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome. Yeah, to kiss the floor and all that.
Really? Can we do that here if you know the promoters in Melbourne? Some promoters in Melbourne, you probably would kiss the floor as an apology.
I wouldn't put it above you, man. Give it a whirl.
No, not me. I'm a man of the people.
Of course.
God, I just had a mental blank. Who's the guy that signed to Fairtex? He's fighting this weekend. Tanan Chai.
Yeah.
What do you think was the thinking behind signing him? Andrew, you're our resident Fairtex critic. Can you give some feedback? Andrew, is your mic on?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're on this is a sponsored show, man. I'm fucking not getting involved in the awesome selections of fighters that have been picked by the management in Thai. Yeah.
Well, just quietly, once everything's open, I'm actually looking forward to getting Ferrari Fairtex out here, who's will be a very formidable
That's a good
fighter.
pick. Good pick.
That's
probably one of the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Solid.
Prem mentioned hopefully we'll be getting him out as soon as we can, so that'll be good.
Who's he fighting soon? I saw something pop up.
Yeah, the matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, what you got, man? Ferrari.
What's your
No. This isn't a matchup for Rebellion, but he's got a bout coming up. Who do you think he should fight in Australia, Kieran?
Oh man, that's a hard. I'm just trying to find who he's fighting. That's a hard one, man. I guess he would probably be a little bit more flexible in. I mean, I don't know how strict or hard they would be on weights coming over here. Like if they would make the discrepancy, like or the window for weight a little bit bigger.
I don't think, thanks to Jake Lund and Lloyd Dean, that's going to happen a whole lot going forward because those boys have come up and fought up in weight here and got hurt. So I don't think that's going to be happening a whole lot. I think they're starting to realize Australians, like the good level Australians, aren't just numpties that are just going to lose.
I'm not sure how they go about moving into 14 days home quarantine, staying with you either. They would fucking do my head in.
You'd love
Sorry.
I'm quarantining with me. It
Deep
would
breaths.
save you having to call me half an hour every time you have a panic attack about something you saw on the internet. Anyway, moving on.
Fights in Australia. Are there any fights in Australia this weekend? How's Queensland going?
No, so Nick Trask has got his show on this weekend. Rise. I'll bring that up.
Oh, okay.
I think
So Rise.
yeah, we've got the main event being Rambo from Corporate Box and Billy Coulter from his own gym, Billy Badass Muay Thai or
Yep.
Billy, I can't remember the name of the gym. Main event.
Yeah. So
Did you guys watch Rambo versus Lloyd Dean on our friend Adam's show?
oh man,
You guys are terrible friends.
I think I was
I have an
on,
excuse. I fall asleep.
I might have had a few beers by that stage. I think we're up there. Yeah, he wasn't in shape for that fight, man.
Mm.
Yeah, but insider knowledge. Shout out to my brother, the intelligent one. He's been training with Rocky a bit since he moved up to Queensland, and he reckons he's been training, man. So, you know what it's like. If the Thais don't think they have to train, then they might not show up. But if they know they're going to have to train, and Billy, man, fucking tough dude, man, fights hard, always. Well, me and you both, Kieran, had been on the receiving end of some of Billy's good performances. So the size is a big concern, though, really. Like, but Billy's not a big, tall guy, but he's thick set. So, yeah, I think Billy will take it based on size only, really.
I think, yeah. I mean, Billy is a bit. Billy's also quite hard to read and a bit awkward to kick too. I know one thing that Dan said to me when he was fighting Billy was he was just frustrated because he felt like he was hurting his shins every time he tried to land a kick, and was just like the angles of everything was a bit weird and he was finding it hard. Billy is a little bit lighter on the feet and likes to kind of that sort of jump in and out. And when you take too long to read and catch onto it, and that's what happened to Dan, he sort of felt like he was just a little bit behind the 8 ball the whole time. I think Billy's one of those guys you can't, if you figure him out too late, because of the way that he moves around, you're obviously down, right? We're talking, 10-point must, we're talking a normal scorecard. So
strong, like that's, about kicking and that. He'd be one of those ones, when you're sparring, you just can't seem to not hurt you. It's like sparring Jamie, bones and everything, just like hurting your feet, hurting everything. Like,
now, which one name that stuck out to me on this card was Statey. So which of the many Staties is this?
So
there is a number of them, and I find it hard to keep track. I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
There was Mark Stady, who retired a few years ago.
Of course, yes.
And then his nephews, I believe, or cousins, I think it's his nephews, Curtis and Jaden, who are brothers. And Curtis and Jaden both trained with Lamnamun in Thailand. And Curtis, basically, man, until he stopped fighting, was probably looking like the most promising next guy we were going to have in Australia. Like, he was the guy that, he was training with Peter Kent and getting managed with him here. And we sort of we were working on like him becoming the next big rebellion star. He fought Roy Wills at Red Scooter and just put a clinic on. And then he kind of, I think, just sort of had his time with it. And this is his younger brother, Jaden. And Jaden is now at Bunchu with Angie and Wang. So I haven't spoken to Peter in a while, but Jaden was scheduled to fight on that Root show 3 weeks ago, but obviously Queenslanders couldn't come in. But yeah, now he's fighting on this show, and I've seen a few of his fights. He's a good fighter. Like it's hard because his brother's such a great fighter, and then he's got to make his own name now.
And the Fagasi versus, is it Haberfield? Fagasi's all right.
Roberto Fagasi, yeah.
Yeah, which is for the WBC Queensland super lightweight title, and those two had only fought recently. So this is a rematch with Cassidy Haberfield getting the win. But I really like Berto's got a really nice style, but often gets overpowered. Like I've seen a few times. Yeah, I really like his style, but has just been on the receiving end of a few losses just from the power side of things. Cassidy, I actually had a boy fight Cass twice, and Cass is a bit more, so he's trained by Jun Lee and I can't remember the other name, out of Gold Coast Martial Arts, and he has a bit more, incredibly strong and fit. I think he's a PT by occupation, and he just quick and really strong, physically quite strong as well. So, yeah, they've obviously, I think the last fight for each of them was against one another, and now this is a rematch. So
awesome.
Sorry, this doesn't it to be disparaging, but I thought Fagasi's last fight was some sort of a world title. Was that fight?
That was that fight, yes. But look, let's say world title, but let's call it for what it is. It was like a show world title.
Right, okay. I'm like, that's a big jump down going from the world title to the Queensland title.
Well,
anyway, so that show is on this weekend, Saturday, 25th of September at the Red Bank Sports Complex. So good luck to Nick Trask, an absolute gentleman of Muay Thai, lovely guy. He's put up the live stream thing on Instagram today, but I'm still not quite exactly sure how it works. But yeah, as we get details, because it just says buy your stream pass now, and then it's got the name, but I'm not sure where you go. Maybe that's from the website.
Just check Briz. Briz.live. There you go.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Jump on, cop the stream.
Live Muay Thai, just got to get on and support whatever you can. And yeah, it's just horrendous not being able to see it live, and hopefully everyone can get behind it in the lockdown states and people can continue to put on streams, because sometimes you don't get your bang for your buck.
This reminds me, we're too late. It won't be posted in time, but Tenshin fights tonight as well in Japan. If you're a Tenshin,
no, it's not going to be posted tonight. It will get posted.
Well, okay, all right.
Yeah, well, I don't like your surly attitude, right?
Well, if you're gonna watch this in time, everyone, Tenshin fights today in Japan.
Yeah, nice. Have you seen some of his boxing pads lately?
Which is a good which is a rematch in the making, actually. It's a rematch that's been about 5 or 6. Masahiko Suzuki, which is 6 years in the making. Sorry, so that is one of 14 fights that's on today.
Can you speak Japanese by any chance? The way you pronounce these Japanese names is really fluent.
Conversational Japanese.
Knew it.
Conversational.
Here is my secret weapon in getting in with the shoot boxing people.
I've got my tight pants ready to go, so just give me a call.
See, Sai thought I wrote a message to him in Japanese, but it probably would have been so illegible. I think it would have been very rough.
Man, one fight. Answer now, please.
It's like me writing Thai. Oh God!
But the response comes back in English, and it's better written than if we'd written it. Like it was like, oh, this is awkward. It's like when you
Made a good first impression, man. Made a good first impression. That's all that counts.
It's just always like it always happens with Japanese and Russian people for me. Is like I talk like hello, and then they're like they have an accent, but their English and their grammar is significantly better than mine, and I'm like, okay. So moving right along, gentlemen. 72 and a half kilos. Well, I think we should combine 70 and 72 and a half kilos, middleweight and super welterweight. Because it's there's not a whole lot of people fighting at the moment.
Oh, Billy, Jamie.
So is Billy a 70 kilo fighter?
Well, he's fought 69.
Yes. Right. His fight against my boy Dan Marshall, that was 69.
So what weight is he fighting Rambo at?
Oof, good question.
Sorry.
Let me have a look.
Got a little squiz here.
Just check out
welterweight.
Smartphone.
Welterweight.
Welterweight's a 66.685 kilograms.
60, yes.
To be precise. They should have let me be. They should have let me be the guy that goes to the WBC title fights and make sure everything's hunky dory. What's it called? The supervisor. I've been excellent supervisor. I'll take for any sanctioning buddies out there. If you need a person to wear a shirt, possibly tucked in, show up to weigh-ins and hold belts in middle of the ring for cash monies, please hit me up.
Well, you've got the physique for it now, buddy.
I do. 98 kilos as of yesterday.
69, 70 kilos. We can do, should we go state by state like we normally do? It usually feels like it's a better way to chop it up. New South Wales, ACT. We've obviously got Jamie Lane, Dan Marshall down my way.
Yeah.
I'll let you take over.
It's hard. No, well, it's kind of hard, man, because don't forget, Jesse March. I think he's going up as well. But
Shout out to Hugh O'Donnell as well.
I know. And I think Hugh's putting on weight now. He'll probably closer to 72. But yeah, it's kind of hard because even with Jesse, he's had some fucking hard fights against some of my guys. And I love watching him fight because he's just got that mad full force, just going for it style. And he's always dangerous. But I just feel like going up to some of these, there's just not as much consistency as would it be nice to be able to do that. It's like, okay, I'll have a fight this year and then gone. I'd love to see them fight more frequently, but it probably just depends on what their lifestyle's like, work and all that type of stuff afterwards. So, and then we used to have Jay Tonga, but now he's obviously up to 72, possibly up to 75. Lyndon's back. Lyndon's fighting at 69. And then
has Lewis actually announced that he's retired? Because he's told me he wants to still fight. So, he's always
and by far, he's the best. And shout out to Lewis, and he's up the country living the best life at the moment. It's pretty awesome watching his Instagram channels if you're not following him. So. But I think that's us.
On every level, feel like an inferior person to Lewis. Is like he's good at Muay Thai. He runs his gym well. He's a good-looking dude. He's just lovely. You go.
It's not always awesome.
Anyway,
we do have.
Yeah. We've got a nice little. We've got that. I guess you've got when you put Lewis in New South Wales and ACT, you put Lewis at the top, and then there is a nice little group. A lot of whom have fought each other multiple times, right? So when you look at the guys between Danny Marshall,
69, 67,
Jamie Lane, et cetera, they've all fought a number of times, haven't they? They've all fought each other at least twice, if not 3 times.
67 and 69 in New South Wales is mad, but now they're starting to separate a little bit because Darren is 67, and then him and two had a mad fight to Warren. But four-mans are illegal here, so fucking there goes that idea. But no dice. Queensland, who you got? 69.
Jonathan Naylor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He bet Yod Tong Chai, another Thai from here, from Lewis's gym. Who else is up in Queensland at the moment? Billy, obviously.
God, we need a Queensland rep because we just sometimes don't know Queensland.
I need to go and have a chat to Paulie D. Shout out to Paul, Mr. Demacaulay. Basically, just need to go back to his page and see who the best guys are because he always puts the best Queenslanders on. So
it would have to be Jonathan, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He would be the one in Queensland at 69 that would be the one to beat.
And like the way we know that for sure too is because it's very like I think they always struggle to match him up locally, and I know like 3-4 of the Victorian boys have jumped over there, jumped way ahead. Like my good friend Ricardo, who went up there with 5 fights under his belt and fought for Jonathan. Wasn't a great night for him. But yeah, so I think he is by far. And then in South Australia, is there anyone 70 kilos? I mean, Kim Johnson's well and truly retired now, surely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they've got a few guys that are hovering around that 10 fight mark, man.
Who's the kid at Rikers? Who's the kid at Rikers that just fought in the main event against Hayden? Anisa Fury.
Oh, Matt Stevens.
Matt Stevens.
He would probably be, I guess, as someone who fights in Thai boxing, or I think he tends to gravitate towards K1. I'm not sure he has a lot. Like obviously Ethan will sanction across different rule sets, and I think he tends to fight kickboxing the most. I don't know if his fight against Hayden was Muay Thai or kickboxing or K1. I'm not sure, but I know he normally fights K1. So,
yeah, that's a good question actually, because I know they were looking for opponents, and a couple of the names that came up would only fight Muay Thai, and he said no. And I thought his fight against Hayden was Thai boxing, but obviously Stan corrected.
Yeah, no, I don't.
James Honey fight. He's 75 now, eh?
Yeah,
he could fight
72 to 75. I think he was. When we'd matched him up against Davey, that was Mark and him choosing to fight up a little bit, perhaps on what he can still make. Yeah. But he's quite a bit, he's got a good frame for it. He's one of those guys that can comfortably go to 75 and still not be out fought, even though he's probably better natural weight is 72.
Man, that guy used to fight in Victoria. And he didn't have a good run here, and then he moved up to Queensland, and he's just gone up in leaps and bounds.
Fuck, I think anyone who'd move out of Victoria would probably be pretty happy.
Yeah,
mindset
shift. If we're talking, are we going to go like 69 over in WA?
Well, Victoria, jackasses, Australia's most livable city.
Oh, sorry.
We don't really have anyone. Like Corey Smith could probably do 70. We had Reef Strutt, who's had 9 or 10 fights, but I think he's retired again. And then we've got our boy Tim Newen, who's only had 7 fights. But look, you got a couple of more years, and that kid's going to be spoken very highly in the top 3 or 4 in Australia. We can move on to WA now.
Good chat. Thanks, man. WA, who we got?
69. Well, that's a good one. 69. Because I can think of a few names at 72, but I'm not sure I can think. Who are we looking at for 69 that are the?
Well, Tyler will probably fight it that way.
Between the two. Yeah.
And then what was the boys that Blair had? I think they might have retired as well. Hurst, Michael. There were 2 brothers, and he was a 70-kilo guy. He looked pretty talented, but I think he stopped fighting.
And sure, Darren's got a bunch of guys.
I think Lucas Sayer maybe could still make 70 as well. He tends to fight 72, but he's not. I think he fights 70 as well. He fought Tyler on the last. He fought Tyler. I think he and Tyler fought at that 69, 70 kilo weight range, I think, on the last Muay Thai Grand Prix. No, sorry, not the last one, the one before that.
What weight's Cameron Bully?
I believe he's fighting Riley and Nash.
Yeah, Riley.
Sorry, Cameron Bully used to be, I think he ended up at 76.
Oh wow,
I
okay.
thought he ended up at 76.
There's a few
Might be
more
wrong.
72 kilo names. I guess if you talk 69, even though his preferred weight is 67, it would still be Tyler, because even at 69, he'd still be big. He's a massive 60. He's a massive and strong 67, isn't he? So he would still be quite big at 69.
So 72 and a half.
Do you remember 72 used to be just like
The Primo Division.
10 years ago. And you could any night of the week, you probably have about half a card of 72 and a half kilo, boys. Yeah. Now.
It's crazy because like you don't realize, you get a couple of guys above 67, but you know, when you do shows and you get the gloves ready and you've got the 8s and the 10s, it was like that. And now we're like, oh, there's like 2 fights where we need 10-ounce gloves. All the other fights are like 8-ounce gloves, like that number. And it was 72 and a half middleweight was the golden weight class. And now it's like, I mean, all the weight classes need some love, but middleweight and 60 and junior welterweight, what the hell happened?
They look so big now too, man. Like you go to a show and you're like, fuck, how big are these blokes? And you're like, oh shit, 72, right?
Yeah.
And guys are showing up.
Well, we've got at
70. Sorry, Kieran?
At 72, we've got the WBC national title being contested on October 30 on Destiny, which is going to be between Jay Tonkin and Matt Webb.
That's it.
So I think Matt
Yep.
holds the title at the moment, so he would be defending it against Jay on Destiny. So that's going to be on October 30.
So I take it that Jay's staying up there.
One would assume. I think he's on Whit Sundays at the moment. I saw on Instagram he's training up that way.
What
so
a spot, man. Fuck.
even living the life and the Whit Sundays and training up there. So you would think that he's not going to run into any sort of border problem and therefore will be sweet to fight. I think it's been a few years since, well, obviously Jay had that first fight back in Australia and coming back from Thailand against James Honey. I think it's been a few years since Matt has fought, and a few, I mean, I don't think he's fought one person outside of Queensland, I think. So
it's just going to be good to see both those guys on, I reckon, up there. It'll be interesting with, we've still got ages. We can talk about that the week before, eh?
We've got a bit of time. But yeah, so that's this, I guess that's the 70 kg WBC national title for that. But then when you go back over WA and you talk about guys like Riley and then Lucas, they've got that state title come up, and I think there's a few other 72s that are floating about. I'm not sure down here in New South Wales, Andy. I'd struggle to think of a name at 72 that wasn't someone who would just step up in the weight.
No pros.
So guys, like we've been talking about all the different weight divisions the last few weeks. It does feel like even though there is a lot of events, there's a lot of shows running, and when there is no lockdown, you know, you get to add Victoria and New South Wales. There's so many events, so many fighters, so many gyms, but that upper sort of level of fighters is really missing at the moment, isn't it?
Man, I just hate to see, like, where's the top tier going to be? We're going to be hitting over a year of like inactivity, especially here. Are they going to come back or not? I don't know, man. Like, we might try and do a sneaky show here just to get the ball rolling for the end of the year, but hopefully on the same night as Rebellion, and then you just kind of see what happens. But the last 1774 show was like that had most of the good guys on who are active, and I just don't know, man. Like, we'll get a whole lot of guys who are, I just found that even here anyway, just speaking from Sydney, in that we have a whole lot of guys who are at development and entry level guys, and then once they're hitting, my guys are like, once they're hitting fucking over 5 fights here, we just got to go in a state, man, and it sucks. And then when you go in a state, you're obviously fighting as the away team, and it's hard to get an away win sometimes. And I don't know, man, it's going to be really interesting. So I don't roll your fucking eyes, man. What are you talking about?
You have the best runner like here on my show, and yet he still goes back. Kieran, this is old mate here. He's like, you don't look happy when we win. I was supposed to like jump around up and down in the ring and be like, yes. Like, when do I ever look happy after a fight?
He looks upset. When we win, he's like, oh, fuck, my guy just got knocked out by one of Andy's guys. Fuck. Oh.
Who got knocked out by one of
Yeah.
these guys?
Oh, fuck.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember. Cam Webb knocked out Benny. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's a mad
Speaking as the
We're holding on to that for a while.
We are always away. The ACT, we are resident away corner. We are never home crowd, never home turf. Like,
Yeah.
Once again,
Lewis did a really good thing recently. Speaking of awesomeness, sorry to butt in, talking about away teams and me being as shit a cunt as you say I am, Si, might even have to follow suit. Fight team sponsors, because especially for his juniors, he's got that sick mob of about 4 little teens who fight like demons, but because they're just having to fight in a state all the time, and even us, we were sponsoring him to go and fight in a state all the time before lockdown. It's probably something you're going to have a look at, man. If the depth of talent isn't there, and you got to do it. So
2 things. First, Kieran, the last time you were on the show in Melbourne, I put you as the red corner. I put Diandra as the red corner. So thank you. But that was more for Diandra than you. At the time, she was going through a lot of hardship in her life, so it was the only right thing I could do. No.
We lost him.
I hope so. That's like the first funny thing I've ever seen you do.
That's man. Wow, that's.
And number 2, that's the other thing is, with Roots, the number of people that actually are willing to just fly themselves over to get a fight. So I think that does show, like, there's so many limited fight opportunities interstate sometimes where guys are willing to come and do it. Like, I've had a bunch of fights on my show where it's been 2 interstaters on the Roots card. They've flown themselves over to fight each other in Melbourne, which is always a big crowd pleaser. But
hopefully we can get the travel bubble going between Sydney and Melbourne by Christmas, Si.
But by December 4th, I want to resurrect some of my matchups. I want to resurrect some of my matchups from May 28 back on again.
Yeah. Can you, as a professional, are you guys allowed to train indoors still?
Yes.
Fuck. See, we didn't even have that.
Yeah.
We can do. So just on that, hopefully all going well, Hammer's going to have Warriors Way October 16. So just him and Mr. Keith Grant are matching some fights and matching some the card together. So keep an ear out for that. But yeah, as long as there's a fight permit and the guys are matched on it, they can travel and train inside the gym. So like one of my, because there might be a couple of kickboxing fights in the car, one of my boxers might be fighting on that. So we're just getting a permit so you can come into the gym and we can train. So yeah,
motivated, man.
Yeah, so that'll be a good thing. But yeah, shout out to Hammer. He's trying to make sure it gets going and it works out. So keep an eye out for all the details. So guys, one of the topics that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because obviously none of us have gone near it, is doping in Thai boxing. Obviously, it's a thing that gets talked about in a lot of other mainstream sports and Olympic sports. But doping and, I mean, not just straight steroids, but other stuff that happens in Muay Thai with painkillers and guys basically getting jabbed up just to jump in the ring and be able to fight. What are your thoughts, Mr. Parnham, the American top team of Australian Muay Thai? Kieran gets it.
Sorry, Andy.
It's the number of positive drug tests I've had to hide for PTJ Muay Thai over the years. It's shocking.
Yeah.
Here's the Carl Lewis to my USA Olympic.
While we're talking about doping, so also like doping, are we even going to talk about like hydration and people getting back on drips and stuff? Because technically that's fucking doping and shouldn't really be allowed, to be honest, but it does get the guys hydrated and back in and more healthy, I guess, is one way to look at it. But it shouldn't have to come down to that, man. Like, Seen it done in Thailand a lot, where they're cutting weight from like 1 a.m. or a few days before that, almost dying, sitting in a car, having to go weigh in at 6 a.m. Obviously, they always over that little bit, and then having to go run around and try and cut a little bit more, jump in, then just go back to a hotel room and just get on the drip for another fucking whatever, and then just get ready to fight in the Arvo, which I just don't like it, man. But I guess if you look at it from the other way, in that they're cutting weight and they're actually getting back into the ring and fighting with, they're properly rehydrated, then maybe it might not be such a bad thing. But anyway, drugs, I don't know. What are we talking about? Like performance enhancers and training hard to get back into it, or getting on the fucking pot and smoking and then getting back. I've never been a fan of guys getting on any drugs, even drinking. 2 to 4 weeks out for us, depending on the level of fight. So I don't know. I'm against it, man. I just don't like it. I personally don't. I don't think they need it in a sport like ours. I mean, for recovery, obviously, it's a good thing, but I think also you're playing with fire in that there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes into making weight. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good enough knowledge of it because I've never had to deal with it a whole lot in my gym personally. So
I think you and I were chatting about it before you jumped on before. It's like in boxing where Jarrell Miller tested positive and then Andy Ruiz jumped in to fight Anthony Joshua, was because Jarrell Miller tested positive to drugs and everyone was going crazy. And like recently, Oscar Valdez failed an out of competition test for his world title defense and they still let him fight. And it was a drug that Victor Conte actually did a really nice breakdown of it. It's something that helps you lose body fat, but also, it improves your reactions. There's a lot of that stuff. And I think people kind of blow out and go, oh my God, it's like, I can't believe this one guy did this thing. And I'm like, man, if it's like any other sport in the world, like I think if you're an adult and you've stopped believing in Santa Claus, you know that in the Olympics and world championships of most elite level sport, drugs is like probably over 90% of those people are doping one way or another. It's kind of naive not to go, the Chinese Olympic team was taking steroids, but we're beating them naturally. It's like, well, are we? So I think once you're being realistic about that, and not all drugs are just going to make you muscularly bigger. Stuff is going to help you recover, cut weight, help you train more often, just be stronger without getting. It's naive to think in a professional sport where people are not in Australia but overseas making a living off it that they're not doping. I just find that naive.
There's a stage where you're seeing some of those Thais over there. I don't think they knew what they were drinking for breakfast, but
and this is what Si and I were talking about before we came on when we got in. There's I'll give my view on the Australian side of it, but the thing that I feel like people turn a blind eye to a lot when they romanticize Thai boxing in Thailand is like not willing to take into account the chemical, like the chemical. And if you've got half your wits about you, you can figure out, it's a thing, right? Like it's or you've seen it firsthand, which a lot of us have obviously seen it firsthand or heard about it firsthand, whether it is like whatever chemical substance is readily available, or it's like a pre-fight thing, like a horsepower pre-fight or something, which is common as well. And you've got these things which you don't always get to such a high level of competition, competing so regularly, and then taking into account that it's not viewed as a sport like it is here. Like they're money making, it's gambling, it's horse racing, man. Of course they're
thoroughbreds.
Exactly. Of course they're gonna do. It's a completely different outlook, and I feel like sometimes we in the Western world don't pay enough heed to that and respect that when we romanticize it, in thinking like, man, it's pretty bad over like, and it's also sad when you see boxers, you see Thai boxers like in their 40s and 50s and 60s, and you see the state that they're in, or man, you can find you find pictures floating around on the internet of like golden era legends who are bums on the street, like alcoholics and the like, because it's that horse racing mentality sometimes. And it's just, yeah.
Do you remember back in the 80s and 90s, the heavyweights over here, like that was just a whole nother level as well. Just see guys coming out and you're like, oh, God.
Guys moving up from super middleweight to also being a super heavyweight, like, you know, Ubering it up from 4 weight division. And it's not like, dude, did you really put on 30 kilos of muscle in the space of 3 years?
Honestly, like the size thing, and it's still around, but I just remember being a hell of a lot more in Australia anyway. I might be naive in thinking it was a hell of a lot more prevalent back in the 90s. You just see it so much more with the guys who are at the higher level. Kind of, you could just see it in their physiques, man. Some of these guys, and but I don't know. At the moment, I think considering that what's at stake, it's not a whole lot of it going on locally, so it's a pretty good thing.
It's very much still like a 1% thing as well, isn't it? As far as advantage is concerned, because over here in the sport where it's maybe not as developed as say Western boxing is in like America and the UK, where that 1% makes a massive difference, you can make it up here in skill. The skill is enough, the benefit you can get. But I think it's important what Andy highlighted when it comes to things like IV drips and stuff, and that is probably where we're more likely to see quote unquote doping, because it is also has that dangerous effect of, well, if you are so dehydrated that you need to rehydrate from an IV drip, well, then perhaps you shouldn't have done so in the first place. But I'd still call that doping. Absolutely. Like, I think you're a bit, I don't know, I think it's naive to think that it's not.
But it was funny, like, I was talking to Hammer, and when they went to fight in Las Vegas with River, and basically they give you the water bottle, and that's the water bottle you can drink. And they basically follow you around when you're in the room about to go to fight. And there's a really cool doco on YouTube now. It's a really old one. It's called Assault in the Ring, which is about a guy that an undefeated Irish young boxer. He fought a kind of like a journeyman, and then he got busted up bad. And it turned out, I think the trainer's name is Panama Lewis, or one of those names. His name is Panama. He'd taken the padding out and he'd put plaster on it, which is causing and stuff. And it's horrific. But he's also really well known for, I forget the fight, where in the last round, the second last round, his guy that he's losing in the corner, they showed in the camera. The second goes to give him water, and he goes, no, not that bottle. Give me the other one that I mixed. And he gives him a asthma medication that opens it up, and you're sucking up oxygen, right? So you're getting a guy that's in the 5th round. His oxygen intake is so much better, and he basically comes and just flogs the dude. And it's that famous story again, a Victor Conte one, which is Shane Mosley, like being done for EPO, like there's drugs for this and that. And you think about in a sport like Thai boxing, like we don't have any sort of drug testing to stop that. So let's say guys aren't taking steroids and blah, blah, blah. But we also, like, I don't know what your commissions are like. No one's checking what's in the water. Guys could in the 4th and 5th round take something and come out and just be going for it. And I know there isn't money on it, but at the same time, people cheat to win a local golf game against their mates. Like, if someone wants to win and that's the way they're inclined, there's just nothing in there. Like, some of the stuff that we don't really have, like, Andy, have you ever had to submit your gloves to a combat sports sport to check and approve that they're appropriate gloves for fighting?
Every show we do, we have to.
Our gloves, they fight in them. Like, they could be any brand of glove. We've never been questioned.
We have to
hand wrapping, they check, but I've sat next to people and I've seen the way people wrap hands, and I'm like, I know, like, when I wrap hands, it's the most honest hand wrapping. And then I've seen people build stuff up, and then they come and touch it and go, yep, that's good. But the doping beforehand and stuff, like, we've got, as a sport, and a sport that's, you know, it's not like you're having a running race against each other. You're like punching each other in the face and elbowing each other in the head. Like,
The only testing I've seen is at nationals because of the WADA thing.
yeah,
They've had the tents up there, but most of the cheating I've seen is more just around
rehydration.
wraps, the odd glove trick.
The asthma one is an interesting one though, isn't it? Because Andy,
I know Andy's screwed that up a couple of times, the known cheater.
The asthma one is an interesting one because I can say, like, I personally have very bad chronic asthma, right? And for me, like, exercise-induced asthma comes on very quickly. And
if this was Malcolm in the Middle, this show, I know who you'd be.
And the thank you, appreciate that. I did watch it, so yes, I can appreciate that.
Hey, sorry.
Ventolin is, I mean, my lung capacity is already much less than that of what a regular person's lung capacity would be. And so by taking Ventolin, some may see it as an advantage. However, for me, it's just putting lungs back to what was previously that I already have. It's not making them better than what they were. It's returning them and deconstricting and unrestricting them. And so I know that dependent upon the sanctioning body and the like, they view asthma medication as a no-no. To me, I find I personally as an asthmatic have a hard time agreeing with that because it's not actually a benefit. It's not making my lungs better than yours. It's bringing
the base level,
Yeah,
so it's
like then that's for you when you prove that that's a thing, and I think, you should. If you've got a, well, anyone can get a fucking certificate. We're going to learn that soon. When it comes to back. But there are people always going to push the boundaries, and we've been pulled up, with Jamie type thing. But like
what happened with Jamie?
If a normal person uses it, sorry.
What happened with Jamie?
It didn't matter. We still won.
Come on, talk about it.
Fight. Fault fought on 1774. There was the WBC. What's his position?
Supervisor.
He was a roller
supervisor on the night. We've never been pulled up before. There are no rules saying that you can't use a puffer. He's got a severe asthma. He's got severe asthma, basically. Always used it, never had a problem. For Dan, for the title, that bloke, it's World Boxing Council, he's a boxing dude. He once in between round 4 and 5 or 3 and 4, 3 and 4, come up, we using the puffer, come up and cause a like, gotta get that out of there, get that out of there. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, can't use that, that's cheating. Like, never been pulled up before, never seen a rule set where it says anything about it. Cool, fought the fight, we lost fair and square. Afterwards got pulled aside by him, and he said, if you had won that, we would have stripped you of the title anyway because you cheated. Now, why the fuck did you make me fight those other 2 rounds anyway? You should have just pulled us up and cancelled the fight. If that's the way it's going to be, then that's the way it's going to be. Hand over the belt. But then it turned out afterwards that there is no such fucking rule. And we could have potentially lost the belt based on a made-up rule that's probably in boxing and probably written down somewhere, but not written down anywhere else. So that was really upsetting. But I have, in amateur boxing circles, heard of people who do use asthma for the puffers for that reason. So yeah, it's an interesting one, man. Like, I don't know, like they say, have you seen, like, when a lot of people, like when Thais put it's eucalyptus shit. It's not smelling salts. It's nothing other than yadong, like it's eucalyptus oil, and they're just clearing the nose out, and you see people lose their shit. Stop it. And people in the crowd are going, look, man, he's fucking giving him, like, they're just using that. And I've had people come up and go off over that as well, but should that be legal? I don't know.
I had smelling salts in between a round once. It nearly gave me an egg count. I was like, it was the worst experience. I was like,
yeah. But you've heard all the tricks, man. But I don't know, in the end, as far as performance enhancing drugs are concerned, party drugs are a different story. But I mean, yeah.
Drugs.
You'd basically be putting a nail in the coffin if if you ban party drugs in some states, mate. Just let it be and let it go. Camera, no. Anyway.
Good one.
Politicians have got to make decisions somehow, man.
Sorry?
The politicians have got to make decisions somehow.
Yeah. In the government. And then our final topic for today, guys, before Andy can go back and crack a beer open, is our training topic. This was another one that I've got nothing to say because I've got a boxing. It's hour-ish.
Change that.
What are you guys' thoughts in having elbow pads at training and clinching? Do you do it? Or because I know some gyms love doing that. Do you wear elbow pads in the clinching and let the guys elbow, or is that a big no-no for you?
I only, if we have like an IFMA style event, will we put the soft padded elbow ones on, or unless the drilling is so specific that it would require that touch. But I found personally that you can pad work and bag work, etc., or even like Dutch style catching into the hand aside, you can for the most part, like, you know, break and motion and stop and rely on the boxer to be smart enough to pull the momentum. If there's a time where I think absolutely we need it, then I will. But for the most part, I personally will only wear those elbow pads when we're training for an IFMA style event, and leave the actual contact of the elbow either to be like pad work, bag work, caught in a hand, like the Dutch style way of doing a drill, or just the elbow sort of being like motion, but yeah, not held short. On instances, I've said like chuck elbow pads on. So I think you guys are being lazy in your arm defense and you're kind of getting away with it a bit. I've found that sometimes finding the line, because you get guys clinch and sometimes they lose consciousness of controlling the arms because they're not as worried, and I'll slap elbow pads on and say, try and clock each other a little bit, not hard, but just to keep each other honest because you're losing it. But for the majority, no, I don't, only in certain circumstance. That's my sort of position.
Do you guys clinch much with lace-ups on, Kieran?
Nah, pretty much either gloves or no wraps. Very rarely will. A lot of my guys don't. They even the guys that wear lace-ups, they have those the tie-ups, to loop it on. But most of my guys just wear Velcro, just a little bit easier. And I hate it when people are slow, so I don't want lace-ups because it takes too long and I yell at them.
Speaking of slow, Andrew?
Our fight team is compulsory to have elbow pads. So yeah, we do it all the time. I personally like it for a couple of reasons. Biggest one's elbow defense. The other one's fear. So taking away the fear around getting hit, so that when they're having their early on fights, they're not concerned with elbows because they've done it so many times in the gym. Do a lot of drills with it. The other one is to try and not have them getting so hurt, even if they're pulling back on the elbow. Some guys get a bit carried away when they're starting out, but we do it a lot. But we also clinch a lot with lace-up gloves on. So obviously lucky enough to have a lot of leftover gloves from shows and stuff, but we clinch actually, I'd say more often than not, we clinch with lace-ups on than no gloves. The elbow pads, it's like at least, a couple of times, once or twice a week, but they're compulsory for us too.
The reason I brought up the elbow pad especially today was this beautiful photo Fabio Pinca put up on his Instagram today, landing a body shot in one of his fights. But because in France, I don't know if it's still a rule, if it's changed, they have to fight professional Muay Thai with elbow pads. And I always love that the elbow pad is, I don't know how to do this. The elbow pad is, it's crazy. Anyway, go to Fabio Pinca's Instagram page. The elbow pad is never actually on the elbow. It's a forearm pad. And so many of the guys, like, I think Tong Chai and Sanchai and stuff have fought there. And I remember years ago, Blair Smith messaging me, we just got offered a fight in France for Toby. And I was like, yeah, great. And he told me like who the fight was and how much it was. And then he goes, I was like, he has to fight in elbow pads, don't you? He goes, fuck off. Not at home. So he hangs up the phone, messages me like 10 minutes later. I was like, I checked it out. They have to wear elbow pads. I told them to get fucked. I was like, bro.
Yeah. I love elbow pads for amateurs, like for the startup.
Sorry?
I love elbow pads for entry-level fights, man. Like I much prefer it over a Mod Thai fight. But yeah.
So Andy, my thing is the thing that I find frustrating when we do use elbow pads, and perhaps you find some better than others, but a few of the things that I find the most frustrating, is the size. Obviously, it's adding. It can add a significant amount of space, and when it does come to something like really tightly pulling your arm back, obviously that is in the way and is hindering that. Or is this constant?
Yeah.
The whole way. I for me personally, it's enough to make me steer away from it. I get frustrated either by that extra space that changes, I feel, the dynamic of the clinch a little bit, and then secondly, that the constant readjust and pull and push, and the guys getting their arms fatigued because they've got that vasoconstriction, that constant tight. That's my sort of, but I don't know what you think.
A big word for me today, the vasoconstriction. But we've got the Smide elbow pads, twins ones, whatever the other one. I mean, I think they're great. A lot of our guys will cut the Velcro things off, so it's not always hanging around and tucking it in. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but for us it's better. But when we're doing hard clinching and lots of it, and really like we're not using them, to be honest, but it's something we use quite a bit of. So I just like it from elbow defense. I just feel like elbow defense is really not looked at, and that's why I hate Mod Thai, not just because it's bastardizing the sport, but I just disagree with the fact that you can just move from Mod Thai to full Thai rules, and you've never had to defend against elbows before when you're getting yourself in vulnerable positions in the clinch. You know what I mean? And you need to learn that from the start, I feel, and I think that's a good thing about elbow pads.
It's kind of like playing touch footy until you're 18 and then doing a tour of New Zealand and getting to running down the wing and getting taken out by 110 kilo 17-year-old winger or something. That's more. I mean, I always use the footy analogy, but to me, it's the most accurate with that Mod Thai to full Thai jump and it just
doesn't need to happen. I remember when I did the first Rebellion, we still had a few Mod Thai fights on back then. But even saying we're going to have a show with no shin guards, people were like, oh my God, you're going to be able to fill up the card. And then from Rebellion 3, which was 2012, I said, we're going to do everything full Thai. I remember Matty Reid, who was the Vic WMC president, he messaged me and goes, oh, good luck, mate. I don't think you're going to get a full card of that. And now basically you'd be hard pressed on any of the main shows in Melbourne and in Sydney finding any Muay Thai fights. And now even the first Muay Thai Victoria event we got all the kids from 14 up to fight with elbow pads. Everyone showed up. Yep. And it's like they all did it, put the elbow pads on. There was no real disaster. All the roots cards, everyone does it. I'm like, and then there's still people who are kind of genuinely going that they're still holding on to the Muay Thai thing. And it just seems really...
You can get kicked in the head.
But
that is much worse.
Knee in the face.
Yeah.
Knee in the face.
Knee in the head, knee in the face. You pull it down. No, elbow the fuck out of me, man. Absolutely over that. And then I also the other, we're going to veer off topic, but I've had this conversation a few times and it's really frustrated me, is that when matchmakers, like promoters or someone who's acting on behalf of the promoter has gone, oh, they want this fight Mod Thai because they've not been training so long and they're not, and it's like, they're not ready to fight then. Please stop putting people into fights and asking for Mod Thai because you're saying they're not ready to fight or they don't do that much with I'm so sick of it, and it's
when you get asked
frustrating.
When they ask you, and this is another New South Wales thing, when they ask you for a Mod Thai rules fight and you're like, yeah, cool, who are you fighting? And then you're like, man, I had that guy on my show fighting elbows why are we doing this? Oh, let me ask them. Oh, yeah, they want to fight over. Anyway.
Silly. Put elbow pads on, guys.
A lot of times, people, sometimes in my past experience, there was a thing where people fought Muay Thai, they wouldn't get paid. So promoters kind of didn't mind just pushing the whole Muay Thai thing because the elbows was what was getting the guys paid, and it was just a free fight to put on.
I agree with that, man. Like, I
agree that they shouldn't get paid, but I'm just saying that's the reason why they would encourage a fighter who'd be otherwise happy to fight full Thai to fight Muay Thai, and that was a way of just going, all right, well, I'd have to pay for the fight.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've got pads here, so
is the entertainment? I've had it as before about the entertainment factor when it comes to saying, oh, we don't do Mod Thai, we're doing Mod Thai because I don't want to do quote unquote full Thai with elbow pads. So we're just matching it as Mod Thai because they don't want to do it, but I don't want to put elbow pads on because it looks shit and it's not exciting or whatever. And my response is usually, well, then just don't run a big show, just run a tournament then. Like it's don't run an entertainment factor. That's another silly argument that comes up a bit, which kind of frustrates me.
A lot of things frustrate you, Kieran, but that's part and parcel with living on your own through a lockdown. But anyway.
It's true.
Anyway.
Why did I say?
I am. I now feel bad about my comment earlier, which I'm going to have to explain what I meant by it because it wasn't a bad comment. I didn't mean it the way it came out. Anyway, guys, great to see you all. Well, Kieran, good to see you.
Hi.
Take it easy.
Andrew.
Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you next week.